I wish I could talk about my earliest memories of the Toy Story movies since the fifth one's coming out. Toy Story is probably one of the first movies I ever saw in my lifetime. I'm not joking. I saw this movie on VHS, and I thought Toy Story became one of the greatest movies I ever saw. My earliest memories of Toy Story is that I thought the human faces of the humans were pretty scary looking. And I thought the parts where Woody got pushed out of the window was, Buzz Lightyear got pushed out of the window was pretty scary too. Which character is my favorite in Toy Story? When I was a little kid, I personally don't have a favorite character in the movies. Was it Slinky or something like that? Slinky's actually voiced by that hillbilly from the Ernest movies. It's kind of sad that he disappeared in the third movie. He was in two movies, of course, but the voice actor's dead. He's a really cool guy. Do you think Rex is a good, likable character, or is that Mr. Potato Head or him? Mr. Potato Head's kind of funny, isn't he? I thought Rex was kind of funny too. He's kind of like a wimp. Woody's kind of cool. Or maybe, I think the Toy Army Man is probably the coolest characters in the Toy Story movies. Don't you guys agree? I never saw Toy Story 1 when at the movie theater because Toy Story came out when I was a baby. Well, actually, Toy Story 1 came out when I was born. I was probably too young to be watching those type of movies, but I do remember seeing on videotape for the first time when I was about 1 or 2 or 3. I think I was about 3 or 4 when I first saw Toy Story, I think, on videotape that my parents used to record on a TV screen. I guess so. I don't know. Toy Story became one of the favorite movies of my family. Mainly it's because my parents liked the actors like Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. They're around my mom's age, of course. Toy Story is one of the world's first feature-length computer-animated film. It revolutionized computer-animated films over the years, like The Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Dinosaur, what else? What other computer-animated movies? Oh yeah, the Monsters Inc., the Shrek movies, and The Incredibles. Yeah, because CGI movies are very revolutionary at that time. I usually watch like live action movies, but the movie Jurassic Park was a revolutionary movie with like dinosaur CGI. But Jurassic Park only has 3 movies in the series, but the special effects pretty much revolutionized movies back in the early 2000s, like superhero movies and the Harry Potter movies. I don't really know any kids my age growing up who saw the Toy Story movies. Maybe because my friendship education was kind of poor. But the movie Toy Story does teach you about friendship, but they're grown-up friendship, not kid friendship. Sometimes when we watch kids movies about grown-ups, you might compare the grown-ups as kids because of their personalities, not just their voices or appearance, it's their personalities, like their behavior. It's kind of like kids. You know, when we watch the Real Wheel series with Dave, he's kind of like a kid, of course, not just his looks, but his personality, his acting, of course, that he acts like a kid. What about Schemer from Shine Time Station? He's a grown-up who acts like a kid. It's supposed to be relatable for kids, but it's kind of confusing for me as a kid. Like, why is there grown-ups acting like kids? Are you kidding me? They're like father figures, of course, like moms and dads that we can relate to. If I did have friends who, back when I was a little kid, I would ask them questions. Do you like the Toy Story movies? I wish I could. Bigo Live is the one channel there you can make friends with people. They're all the girls in different countries. I wish I could ask one of the girls in Bigo Live if they ever saw the Toy Story movies. I never asked any girls back in my teenage years if they ever saw the Toy Story movies. I wish I could, but my talking skills are not very good anyway. I like to be quiet. I was a very quiet kid growing up. I do remember the time when Toy Story 2 came out. Toy Story 2 was kind of like the first movie I witnessed that came out on videotape. That's because the first movie came out when I was born. It's kind of interesting. There are many films that came out when I was born, like Pocahontas and Apollo 13 and Jumanji. Jumanji is one of my family's favorite movies. I think it's because of the actor like Robin Williams, because my family thinks Robin Williams is a really good actor. So it's interesting thing about Toy Story and Jumanji, both of them are CGI movies, but Jumanji's kind of like a forgotten movie, but it's a very famous movie to star Robin Williams as the hero. My family seems to like Robin Williams because he's a funny guy. He's kind of like the same age as my mom and dad, of course. Well, because my aunt's boyfriend from the past, he kind of looks like Robin Williams, of course. But the first Toy Story movie I saw in the movie theater was probably Toy Story 3. I didn't see that movie when I was a little kid. I saw that movie as a teenager. It was surprising when Toy Story 3 came out. Don't you guys think Toy Story 3 is surprising too? Where Andy's all grown up, he's going to college. You'd be like, what in the world? Andy's going to college? Are you kidding me? He's not a little kid anymore? That was surprised when I was a teenager when I first heard about Toy Story 3. That was a Toy Story movie that took so long to be developed. I don't know any teenagers at that time who liked Toy Story 3. I wish I could ask some of the girls questions if they ever saw Toy Story 3. I don't want to talk to boys anyway. Boys are kind of ugly and old, but the girls are more interesting. When boys get older, they get kind of boring and ugly and old. They're more interesting when they're little, but I never met any kids when they're little because I was stuck with my family all the time. Plus, I had imaginary friends. But Tom's the Tank Engine was the only show I've watched as a little kid. It doesn't really teach you anything. They only teach you about trains. That's all they teach you. It doesn't really talk about anything. It's useless. So what's your favorite Toy Story character of all time? Comment below in the video. When? Okay, how old were you when you first saw Toy Story? What was your first time watching Toy Story? How old were you when you saw Toy Story? I think I was about 3 or 4 when I first saw Toy Story. At the time when the second movie came out, I was about 4 or 5 or something. And then I was 14 when Toy Story 3 came out, 10 years later. Isn't that crazy? At the time when Toy Story 2 came out, YouTube was not invented. We did have internet back then, but internet was kind of slow back in those days. At the time when Toy Story 3 came out, internet was really fast. That's how I knew about Toy Story 3. I also saw Toy Story 4 10 years later, but it's not as good as the third one. Hopefully this new Toy Story movie would not be as bad as the other ones. I don't know any kids in preschool who have a Toy Story toy. When I was in preschool, I was getting kind of mad while I was going there. I was getting kind of depressed because I thought my mom wants to separate me because I love my mom and dad so much. But I hated how when my mom and dad sends me to preschool as a kid. I was like, what is this weird place anyway? Who are these kids? Who are the teachers? But it's supposed to be more nicer to them. I thought the preschool was kind of evil as a kid, but it's actually supposed to be fun. It was kind of confusing at first. Because I'm used to staying at home watching movies and TV shows. I'm not used to going to the outside world. Hang out with other kids and hang out with teachers. It's really confusing. Sorry, I kind of stuttered too much. I'm not used to making video vlogs because I want to make Lego animations, but I can't do Lego animations because Lego animations take a lot of time to make. That's why I decided to do vlogs instead. We get to talk about, you know, my childhood memories to share it to you people. For you guys to get to know me a lot more. You know, what was it like to be a kid back in the 2000s era? What type of movies do I remember watching? What type of toys and games do I play with growing up? I feel like the Nostalgia Critic or the Angry Video Game Nerd, that guy talks about his childhood a lot in his videos. That's why I decided I want to talk about my childhood to the rest of the world.